Abbott. Your outstanding representative. Stan was on fire today. You were preaching. There you go, Stan. Thank you for that. Listen, it's great to be back in Abilene, Texas. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And let me tell you something. I just want to start out by being clear about one thing. We are going to win in November 2022. Let me tell you why. It's going to be so easy because all we have to do is show the contrast between the conservative policies that have led Texas to be the #1 state versus the radical leftist ideology that people like Beto and the Democrats are preaching. Let me tell you something. We will not let those liberal radicals take over our state. We will keep Texas the best state in the country. Let's take, for example, some of the topical issues that voters are most concerned about, one of which is jobs in the economy and the inflation caused by Joe Biden. Let me tell you something about what's going on. The economy is actually doing far better than what Stan said. And I don't know if, listen, I can tell you myself, anytime I'm giving remarks, I may slip up and say one thing accidentally wrong. And I don't know if Stan did it by accident or if he does not know this. But I was right outside the door, and I heard Stan tell you that Texas has the 9th largest economy in the country. That's not true. That's not true. Here's what you need to know. He did get the number 9 right. He did get the number largest right. But if Texas were its own country, we would have the 9th largest economy in the entire world. But in the United States of America, Texas has the fastest growing economy of all the states in the United States of America. And listen, one thing that our fellow Texans need, they need jobs. And I got to tell you, there's no state that does better at jobs because since you last reelected me to be your governor, Texas has added far more new jobs than any other state in the entire country. Texas is the job state. This issue is so important because what we've seen Beto talk about, he's talked about spending more of your money, raising your taxes that would increase the inflation rate that Joe Biden has already put on us. And you know what? We are not going to let that happen because I am running for re-election to keep Texas #1 for jobs in the economy. And you know what? Because of our economy is doing so incredibly well, because you've done your part, we have a side benefit. The side benefit is that the state of Texas, as we speak here in Abilene today, Texas is sitting on a budget surplus of $27 billion. We have a room full of people here, and I don't know if the people heard me in the back correctly. I did not use the word million. I said Texas has a budget surplus of $27 billion. And we have to spend that money this next session. And, of course, we'll address issues that we have in Texas. We will spend money on schools, spend money on health care, things that will make our state better. But let me ask you this question. Whose money is that? You are right. And so what I want to do is to make sure we use at least half of that money by giving it back to you with the largest property tax cut in the history of this state. Now, one of the powerful engines behind that budget surplus is the incredible oil and gas industry that we have in our state. Texas ranks #1 in the United States for oil and gas production. If we were our own country, Texas would rank either #3 or #4 in the world for oil production. Texas is a leader. But listen, here again, we got Beto threatening this young lady right over here. Because Beto embraced the radical leftist Green New Deal that would destroy oil and gas. It It would destroy oil and gas production. It would decimate hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs right here in the state of Texas, and it would cause the price that you pay at the pump to go up even more, increasing even more Joe Biden's inflation problem. Well, guess what? I am running for re-election to protect the oil and gas industry in the Lone Star State. But listen, we all know there's more to our state than just having the best economy. Another thing in our state is what we're doing for the next generation, such as through education. And I want you to know something. That is, there's been no governor in the history of the state of Texas that's provided more funding for our public schools than I have. There's been no governor who's provided more funding for teacher pay raises than I have. And as we sit here today, Texas has the highest student funding per student ever in the history of the state of Texas. But all that being said, listen, we know that money doesn't solve all problems. And we know that what we need to be doing with our children is making sure that they're not going to have their minds taken over by this radical leftist ideology, teaching them wokeism does not work in our classrooms. We must eliminate wokeism from our classrooms. And Beto is part of this wokeism. He said that teachers can teach whichever version of history they want to teach, meaning that critical race theory would be embedded in our school systems if Beto O'Rourke were to be elected governor. I am the only candidate for governor who is against the use and teaching of critical race theory in our schools. I will not use your taxpayer dollars to teach our kids to hate each other or to hate our country, because our country is the best country in the history of the world. We need to be focused on fundamentals such as reading and writing and math and science, and reminding these students why and how the United States of America did become the greatest country in the history of the entire world. And there's some people in this room right here today who helped make that possible. It's men and women who have worn the uniform of the mightiest military in the history of the world. If you've ever worn the uniform of the military, would you wave your hand so we can see you and thank you for your service? Thank you for that. So listen, something that we also always are concerned about, and that is safety in our communities. And, you know, when you watch TV at night, you may be watching Fox News or something like that, and you see these crime sprees break out, these smash and grab operations, or just people randomly attacked. And it's dangerous in cities like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Portland and Seattle. And I got to tell you one thing that's kind of consistent in all those communities. Those are communities that either defunded police or disregarded police and diminished the role that police play, somehow thinking that maybe if we diminish police a little bit, that will, some crazy way, make communities safer. It does not work that way. And someone who supported that ideology was Beto himself when he came out in support of defunding the police. Let me tell you something. In Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. And we made sure that was law in Texas. I worked with Stan Lambert and other members of the legislature where we passed a law that will defund any city that defunds police. And something even more dangerous than defunding the police, which, by the way, let me show you how dangerous it is. When we were mocking other states, we learned that in our own state, there was a city that defunded their police. The city of Austin. Who said that? Austin, you know what you're talking about. Austin, Texas defunded their police by more than $100 million. And what it led to last year was the highest number of murders ever in the city of Austin. We will not let that happen anywhere in the state of Texas, and that is why we will defund any city that defunds their police. But listen, more dangerous than that are Biden's open border policies. This is destroying our state and destroying our country, but know this, and that is Beto would do absolutely nothing to stop Biden's open border policies. Beto said there was no problem on the border. Beto said that he would try to cut back on the enforcement of immigration laws. We cannot trust our state with someone like Beto O'Rourke. We need to take a strong stand to get our border secure, period. So know this, again, with the help and funding of the legislature, Texas has provided more funding to make sure that we did things no state has ever done in the history of our country to protect our sovereignty. Texas is the only state from the time of George Washington to the time of today, the only state that has ever built its own border wall is the great state of Texas. As we gather in Abilene today, there are both National Guard on the border, and they are turning back or repelling people who are trying to get into the country. If they do make it into the country, we have the Texas Department of Public Safety that will arrest them and either put them in jail or return them back to the border. 2 weeks ago, I'll come back to Delaware in a second, but 2 weeks ago, DPS, they arrested a man for trespassing. He was from Honduras, and when they went through the booking operation, they learned that a warrant was out for his arrest for murder. What's going on the border is extraordinarily dangerous, and it must be stopped. And it's not just things like people who are wanted for murder. It's what the drug cartels have been doing with regard to importing fentanyl into our country. Fentanyl we've got a big sign up here. Someone who knows what they're talking about. 1 pill kills with fentanyl. 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is 2 grains of salt, is a deadly dose. And the elements of fentanyl come from China to Mexico, where the drug cartels lace it onto drugs and then ship it into the state of Texas. And in the United States of America today, the leading cause of death of people ages 18 to 45, it's not car wrecks, it's not COVID, it's not cancer, it's fentanyl. The leading cause of death here in Texas over the past year, we lost about 1,700 people due to fentanyl. And you know what? I'm tired of the cartels importing this poison into our state. And that is why last month I declared the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and we are going after them. So this past April, I was at a board meeting at which I'm there a lot. And I was meeting with mayors and sheriffs and county judges and other officials to talk about what was going on. Because let me tell you what you see on TV. What you see on TV are some people who are going in single file across the river. And they're being led by a cartel member. And the reason why they're going single file is because the cartel is trying to lead them to land that is owned, controlled, or operated by the federal government. Because what the cartels know is if they get the people they're smuggling across the border to that land that's owned or controlled or operated by the federal government, they will have their paperwork processed, and then they will be set free to roam about the United States of America. And it's the Border Patrol filling out that paperwork. Listen, about 90% of the Border Patrol, they're just processing paperwork. They're not patrolling the border. And what Border Patrol does after they process the papers, they dump these people off into small little towns on the border like Eagle Pass or Del Rio or some others. Towns that have no ability whatsoever to be able to deal with the hundreds, if not thousands of people who've been dropped off in their communities. And so when I was at this meeting back in April, I said, listen, I'm going to help you out. Because next week, the following week, I am going to start busing them to Washington, D.C. So why Washington, D.C.? Come on. Listen, hold it. You know, I'm a very thoughtful governor. I think two reasons. Washington, D.C. is a self-declared sanctuary city. They told the country, they told the world, come here. If you're in the country illegally, they will take care of you. And until they were put to the test. Yeah. So they talk real big. They try to say, oh, you people down south, you're supposed to do what we're telling you to do. But by God, when they have to live up to it themselves, they start crying like babies. And have you noticed that the location in Washington, D.C., where we're dropping them off has changed recently? What happened is Kamala Harris was in Texas, and she was saying how there was no problem at the border. She said that the border was secure, like everybody else in the Biden administration. So I felt a calling to... I felt a calling to be educational about it. And that's why they're now being dropped off at the residence of the Vice President of the United States of America. So we quite literally, we were sending them only to Washington, D.C. And out of nowhere, this Mayor Adams guy from New York City started criticizing me for dropping them off in New York, which we were not doing. And we showed the paperwork to the press and to the public that we were sending them only to Washington, D.C., but that did not stop the New York mayor from continuing to criticize me for sending them to New York City. And so, you know what, I got to thinking, if I'm going to get the criticism, I'm going to get the credit. And did you see it was like last week or the week before what the mayor of New York is asking for? He says in order to take care of it's something like 25,000 migrants. It's just like an average week for us. But he says in order to take care of them, he needs $1 billion to deal with that. Let me tell you something. If he gets $1 billion, Texas deserves $1 trillion. And let me foreshadow something, and that is the fact that Texas will be getting its money, and let me tell you why. The reason is because, among other things, it's going to happen on November the 8th. There are 3 Latinas who are running for the United States Congress in the border region, 2 of whom are married to Border Patrol officers. And they are going to defeat Democrats, and they will do their part to fire Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And after they do that, they've already told me that one of the things they will be doing, they will be reimbursing the state of Texas for the money that we have been spending to do the federal government's job to secure the border. You know, one thing that really rankles me is how and why in Washington, D.C., they would think that it's somehow a good idea to spend money to hire and add 87,000 more IRS agents. So let me tell you something that Congress can do. The new Congress that will be led by Republicans, they have the authority to reroute that money, and they can defund those 87,000 IRS agents and instead fund 87,000 Border Patrol agents. So listen, there's to say the least, there's a lot at stake in this election. There's the border, obviously, but also there's your jobs. There's your taxes that are at stake. There's your safety. There's your freedom. But you know what? And I think this really rings true in Abilene, Texas. The thing that's most at stake in this election is your values. Your values are on the line in this election. And let me tell you something that you may not expect, and that is the winner or loser of this election is not going to be me. The winner or loser of this election is going to be you. You're exactly right. You, your family, your children, their grandchildren, and the future of all of you. And as we gather here today, Beto's taking a sledgehammer to your future to try to destroy it and rebuild it with this wokeism, leftist ideology. And you know what? We are not going to let that happen on November the 8th. We are going to beat Beto, and we are going to keep Texas red. But you know what? Speeches don't win elections. Votes win elections. I can tell by this soon there's many of you who have already voted. But less eager to raise their hand would be the people in the room who have not yet voted. And I know you're out there. There's somebody, several I did actually, many are raising their hands. It's good. So here, let me tell you something. Yet, exactly. So let me tell you something. In 1 minute, I'm going to stop talking and stay up here and take pictures with anybody who wants a picture. But before we do that, though, let me just tell you this. After we take a picture, I want you to go vote. For those who have not yet voted. And it's going to be easy because I am told that the closest voting location is I have Abilene City Hall. Is it closer than that? Abilene City Hall, 555 West Walnut Street, which is close by. If you can find a closer place, go for it. Two blocks. Let me tell you what. I will race anybody here 2 blocks to get you down there. But so listen, this is about you and your future. So you got to vote. If you don't vote, you're ceding your future to the leftists. But if you think that once you have voted, that you've done your duty to win this election, to win this war of ideas, you're absolutely wrong. Because know this, and that is the other side that wants to change Abilene forever. They're out there getting other people to vote. So here's what I need you to do after we take a picture, after you go vote, when you go home. I need you to do this first. And that is to get out what many of you are holding in your hands right now, or that are in your pocket or your purse, and that's your phone. Your phone has something my phone does not. Your phone has your contact list. And all of your contacts are people that you know, people you are in communication with. And if you contact them and say one simple phrase to them, go vote for Governor Abbott tomorrow, period. That's all you got to do. And so, looking around the room, if on average you have 100 contacts in the state of Texas, don't text anybody in Arkansas or anything like that. But we got close to 500, maybe more than 500 people in this room. If all 500 of you are able to contact 100 people, that's 50,000 potential votes right there. That would be a game changer. But you got to know this. When you issue that text, you may not get a reply to that text. And so you got to issue that text tonight, go vote for Governor Abbott tomorrow. You got to send the same text the next night and the next night and the next night and the next night until one or two things happen. Either you get a picture back from your friend saying, listen, I voted, here's a picture of me with the I vote sticker on, or you get a text that says something like this: if you ever text me again. Exactly. But you got to penetrate, you got to get through if you're going to make sure that we get the 50,000 votes that you all have the ability to turn out. And if you can get those 50,000 votes out, let me tell you what I'm going to be doing on November the 8th. I'm going to be celebrating, and I will say, as I'm claiming victory, that we won in part because of what Abilene, Texas did here today to get people out to vote. And when we win, we will continue to keep Texas the best state and the greatest nation in the history of the world. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
Let's give it up for Governor Abbott.